Welcome to Evolution of Self with me, Britannia. Hello. So I've just been on this really interesting course and we've been doing this deep dive into creating safe spaces. And it's predominantly around coaching and team coaching and things like that. But I think that this is something that is very interesting for everyone else as well. And it's not just about creating safe spaces, but what it's made me start to think about is my relationship to time. And I first started noticing that we all have a different relationship to time. When one of my friends, we went to a conference many years ago, and whereas I sort of wanted to make sure that I was there on time so that I could be there when it started, she just took her own sweet time about everything. And I love her dearly, so this is I'm not trying to have a dig at her. I just found it incredibly interesting because her attitude was almost that it would wait for her. That the people speaking, that she would get there, at the most important time, that she wouldn't miss anything. And so therefore she could do whatever she wanted. And it was almost like life would wait for her. Whereas my relationship to time is very, very different. And this particular course that I've been on brought it home even more strongly than I've noticed it before. I get quite anxious that I'm going to be late or that I'm going to miss out on something, to the point that I always make sure that when I'm going somewhere new that I arrive around about half an hour early. It gives me time on my way in case something happens unexpected that might delay me. So it gives me enough time that even if something does happen, I'm more than likely going to get there on time anyway. It also means that when I get there, I then have time to kind of scope out where I'm going, find, like for instance, this course I'm on, find the room I'm meant to be on, without having to rush or feel panicked or feel like I'm going to miss something or come in late. And it was interesting while we were on this course, because not only is that something that I do, especially when I'm going somewhere new, but in the actual course, when we had breakouts, we were doing exercises and things like that, I noticed that there was an anxiety in me to make sure that I was back in the room on time. When I was in the room, I didn't mind about time. I didn't mind how the organisers of the event handled time. It was more when I was left to my own devices or I had to make sure I was back somewhere when I was in charge of time. And what it made me realise was that many years ago when I was very young, we used to fly between England and Botswana because my dad lived in Botswana and my mum lived in England, me and my brother. And we used to go Zambian Airways, or Air Lusaka as it was known. And we used to stop off in Lusaka. And the airport in Lusaka was very, very basic. There was no tannoy system. We sometimes ended up staying there for many hours at a time. There wasn't really anyone there to look out for us or to make sure that we got on the plane on time or anything like that. And my brother was younger than me, so I felt like I was the one that was responsible. If I had fallen asleep or if I'd lost track of time, then the consequences to that were that we would not have got our connecting flight onto the UK or onto Botswana, whichever way we happened to be going. And it also meant that we would be stuck in Lusaka. In those days, there was not a good cell phone or telephone system. The likelihood of us contacting our father to help us when we were there was very slim. And we more often than not used to travel without any money as well. So we wouldn't have been able to get any food, any water, or anything while we were there. So I think that was the pivotal point in my life where time became something that gave me anxiety. That being late, that not being on time became something that was quite important and driven into me. And I'm sharing this with you because I don't think we often think about our relationship to time. It's not something that we see ourselves having a relationship with. It's just time, it's a construct, and it's us. And it's something we live our whole days by. Our whole life is run by time. If you work at a regular job, you know what time you get up, you know what time you leave to get to work on time. When you're arranging to meet people, it's normally at a certain time. I also had a client a number of years ago who was always late for everything. And it was something we worked on in one of the sessions. And what we found was that her relationship to time was one of resistance, that she felt that it was controlling and that she wanted to rebel to it. So the whole reason that she showed up late to things was almost to stick two fingers up at time. And yet, when you think about it like that, it's kind of ridiculous, because time doesn't care if you're early or late or whatever. It just keeps on chugging along. The only thing that doing or being resistant to time does is it hurts you. It causes you trouble, stress, drama in your own life. It causes resistance to your own life. It affects the relationships you have with people. It affects how people see you. If you're always late to something, even if it's showing up to meet a friend, it's kind of, to me, if somebody's late consistently when we arrange to meet, then I kind of get the feeling that they don't really want to be there, that they're not respecting my time, because I'm there waiting because I'm on time, because we've agreed to be there. And if somebody doesn't honour that time, then a part of me feels that they haven't valued my time. So whilst they're having this relationship that they have with time, whatever their relationship is, or whatever drives it, there's also about honouring someone else's time and valuing someone else's time. Because if you're sitting waiting, I could have been doing something else. I could have been doing something more valuable. I could have been making a vlog or creating one of these episodes. So I just really wanted to share this with you because it's given me a number of insights. It's made me explore my relationship to time. It's made me understand where my drive to be on time comes from. And in understanding that, it opens up possibilities for how I decide or choose to interact with time. Now, I also mentioned about creating a safe space with time. And this is something that I found really interesting in this course, is that when you hold time and you honour time and you honour other people's time, it makes them feel safe. So for instance, if you say that we're going to do something and it starts at this time and it finishes at that time, and you stick to those times and people can then work their life around those times, you feel that you can trust what that person says. And then if you have a breakout and you go and do an exercise and they say, for instance, you have 10 minutes to do that exercise, we expect you back in the room in 10 minutes time, and we will proceed with what we're teaching after that time. If you do not make it back in time, we will simply carry on. You can join the room quietly and come and sit down and make yourselves comfortable. And what I learned from them is that it doesn't have to be an aggressive thing. You don't have to force people to be there on time and threaten them if they're not. It can just be a simple, respectful thing that this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it. Come in, don't come in, do whatever you choose, but we're doing this. And for me, I know it made me feel safe. It made me feel that, especially because they did what they said, so if people were late, they did just carry on. There was no judgment of those people being late. There was no shutting them out. There was no aggression. There was no anger, no disruption to what was going on. It was simply, we're honouring the people in the room, we're honouring our word, and we're going to continue with what we're doing. And to me, this has so many implications. It has implications to meetings in business. It has implications to friendships and agreements and meeting up with friends. It goes so far in our lives that when someone says they're going to do something, they actually do it. And that builds trust. And the trust builds a sense of safety within that, a sense of being able to rely on someone or on a process. And when you think of the implications of that within a business or within a relationship, for me, I found it quite profound. And I thought maybe you'd like to play with it or at least think about it. And I hope you enjoyed this. As usual, there's show notes below, links to my website if you want to do some coaching with me, links to my online courses, and links to the monthly Ho'oponopono sessions. I hope you have a fabulous week. So much love from me to you. Bye-bye.